friends! I have a story to share with you. It's called Greta and the Giants. It's inspired by Greta Thunberg's Stand to Save the World. It's written by Zoe Tucker and illustrated by Zoe Persisco. There was once a girl who lived at the heart of a beautiful forest. Her name was Greta. One morning, things weren't quite as they should be. Greta stepped out into her yard, and there, huddled together in the shadows of the trees, were all the animals of the forest. A soft, silvery brown wolf stepped forward, with his tail low to the ground. "Please help us," he whispered. "The forest is broken, and we don't know where to go. The giants are ruining our home." The giants had always been there, for as long as Greta could remember, but now they were worse than ever. They were huge, lumbering oafs, and they were always busy. They chopped down trees to build homes. Then they chopped down more trees to build bigger homes. The houses grew into towns, and the towns grew into cities, and they built factories and shops and cars and planes, and they worked all day and all night until eventually there was hardly any forest left. But the greedy giants had forgotten how wonderful the forest was. They didn't see all the little birds and bugs and butterflies and bears that trembled in the shadows. And no one told them to stop because everyone was scared of them. Everyone except Greta. "Will you help us?" asked the wolf. Greta looked around her. The animals looked tired and sad. She had to help them, but how? Then Greta had an idea. The next morning, Greta went to the middle of the forest and waited for the giants to come. She stood alone, holding a big sign, and the sign said, "Stop." She waited and waited. On the first day, the giants didn't see her and lumbered on by. And on the second and third, too. A little boy who had been watching Greta made a sign and came and sat down next to her. He didn't say much, but Greta knew he felt like she did. His sign says, "Listen." Soon more people and animals saw what they were doing, and they joined in too. "We live here," says the fox. "Save our planet," says this girl. "Help," say the little animals. "We love our trees." "Who will help?" says the owl. "Our home is on fire. Stop. Action now. Listen." Before long, a huge crowd filled the forest, stretching out into the city and the roads beyond, and they stood together and waited. The crowd was so huge that the giants were stopped in their tracks. "Please stop," Greta cried. "Your greedy behavior is spoiling our home. You've broken the trees and trampled the flowers, and now the bees and birds have flown away, and these animals are homeless, and our forest is dying." And after Greta had spoken, everything was silent. But then everybody in the crowd began to shout, "The smoke from your fires is choking the air, and please stop cutting down the trees. You can help plant new ones. We need action now." and mend my home. We need change. We need to take care of our forest and live together. Will you please try? They all said. And the giants shuffled and fidgeted and stomped their feet on the ground, and they were embarrassed and a little bit sad. You see, the giants were so busy building, they didn't see what they were doing to the forest or the animals who lived there. The giants felt terrible. "We're sorry," they said, and they promised to try harder. So from that day on, the greedy giants weren't so greedy. They slowed down and they learned to sit quietly. And they stopped working all the time and instead took up new hobbies. Knitting. And they stopped chopping down the trees and learned all about gardening and living in the forest. And they cooked and repaired and tidied and shared. And before long, the forest became more beautiful than they ever could have imagined. These illustrations are beautiful. This is a story inspired by a real girl named Greta Thunberg. When Greta was not much older than you are, she found out something called climate change. This means the world is getting hotter and hotter, and this is causing a lot of damage. Scientists all agree that the rising temperature is down to human activity. When we burn coal, oil, and gas, called fossil fuels, something called carbon dioxide is released into the air, and this makes the world warm up. The polar ice is melting, sea levels are rising, forests are being chopped down, and animals are left homeless. The Earth is already 1 degree Celsius hotter than it used to be, and this is caused worse wildfires, storms, droughts, and floods, and more than 1 million people living near the coast have been forced to leave their homes. If we carry on as we are, things will only get worse. Climate change is the biggest crisis humans have ever faced. Greta knew all of this, and she couldn't understand why no one was doing anything about it. So when she was only 15, she went out on strike from school, sitting outside of the Swedish government building and holding a sign that said, "Strike for climate." Over time, people stopped to join her. And now her protest has encouraged children and adults from all over the world to stand up for climate change too. Greta has spoken to politicians from many different countries, and she has even won a Nobel Peace Prize. There are all sorts of things you can do to help stop climate change. Tell your friends and family about what you've learned. Walk, run, or cycle, or take the bus or train instead of getting in a car if you can. Try to get your family to eat less meat. Maybe ask your parents or guardian to buy food nearby instead of from a faraway country. And look after the things that you have. Maybe fix them when they're broken instead of buying new things. Share with your friends when you're finished with the things you've played with. Maybe grow your own garden. There are all sorts of things we can do to help. Thank you for listening to Greta and the Giants. Bye.